Hello, dear story lovers. At the amount of 1,000 subscribers, I will post a huge series of special stories for you. Subscribe now. The Martian winds howled over Sector 7, a sprawling expanse of discarded technology and forgotten dreams. This was the Junkyard, the graveyard of the cosmos. Ships from all corners of the galaxy ended their lives here, tossed aside when they were deemed too damaged, outdated, or impractical for modern space travel. The air reeked of oxidized metal, and the ground crunched underfoot with shattered glass and fragmented circuits. Grill, a wiry tarwee with silver blue skin and elongated limbs, piloted his battered vessel through the swirling red dust of the Martian atmosphere. His 4 eyes, each independently swiveling, scanned the perimeter as he approached the Junkyard's central drop zone. The ship he flew, the Saurian Hawk, had been his pride and joy once. Sleek and deadly, it had sped him across star systems, outrunning pirates and dodging patrols during his smuggling days. But now, it was nothing more than a burden. "Old girl," Grill muttered in his guttural tongue, petting the console with one of his clawed hands. "We had a good run, but your time has passed." The Saurian Hawk sputtered as it descended, its hull, once gleaming cobalt, now scorched and dented from years of battles and accidents. The Tarwi people, known for their technological prowess, had long since moved on to sleeker, more efficient vessels. The Saurian Hawk was now a relic, a museum piece unfit for the demands of modern interstellar travel. As the ship landed with a hiss of decompressing hydraulics, Grill surveyed the piles of junk surrounding him. Towering mounds of metal and debris stretched for miles, a labyrinth of discarded dreams. It was a fitting resting place for his ship. With a resigned sigh, Grill unstrapped himself from the pilot's seat and stepped into the Junkyard, his limbs elongated to their full height as he stretched. A hulking automated loader trundled up, its mechanical arms ready to take possession of the Saurian Hawk. Grill barely glanced at it. "One final gift of the void," he murmured, his voice tinged with melancholy. "May you rest here, forgotten but not unworthy." He pressed a sequence of buttons on his wrist console, deactivating the Saurian Hawk's core systems. Its lights dimmed, and the low hum of its energy reserves faded into silence. For a moment, Grill hesitated, a flicker of nostalgia crossing his features. Then, with a quick shake of his head, he turned away and climbed into his smaller personal craft. The automated loader began its work, dragging the Saurian Hawk to the heart of the Junkyard. Grill's departure was as unceremonious as his arrival, his ship vanishing into the ochre haze of the Martian sky. In minutes, he was gone, leaving behind the lifeless hulk of the Saurian Hawk. Unbeknownst to him, the ship wasn't entirely lifeless. Deep within its core, a faint flicker of energy pulsed, a remnant of its once mighty quantum hyperdrive. It hummed softly, unnoticed in the chaos of the Junkyard, like a heartbeat waiting for a spark. The Saurian Hawk was down, but it wasn't out. Its story was far from over. Mia brushed a lock of auburn hair from her face as the gritty Martian wind swept through the Junkyard. Her overalls were smeared with grease, and a heavy tool belt weighed on her hips. For most, the Junkyard was a graveyard of forgotten machinery, but to Mia, it was a treasure trove of possibilities. As a mechanic with a knack for reviving the irreparable, she spent her days scavenging the sprawling heaps for anything that could be salvaged. Today, her search brought her to an unfamiliar section of the Junkyard, where recent arrivals glinted under the twin suns. She carefully climbed over a mound of rusting hoverbikes and broken drones, her boots crunching on shattered solar panels. Her sharp eyes darted from one piece of scrap to the next, always on the hunt for something that could be transformed. Then she saw it. The Saurian Hawk loomed before her, its cobalt hull partially obscured by a heap of twisted metal. Its design was unlike anything she had seen before, sleek yet rugged, with a predatory elegance that made it stand out even in its battered state. Mia's heart skipped a beat. "What are you?" she whispered, stepping closer. She reached out, her fingers brushing the cool, scarred surface of the hull. The ship was larger than most of the wrecks in the Junkyard, with strange markings etched into its sides. The script was alien, curving and angular at the same time, and it sparked her curiosity. Despite the visible damage, the ship's structure was intact, and something about it called to her. Mia found a partially open hatch near the rear of the ship and climbed inside. The interior was dimly lit, the air stale but breathable. She flicked on her wrist-mounted flashlight, revealing a cockpit filled with controls she couldn't immediately recognize. The seats were torn, the panels cracked, but it was clear the ship had been advanced in its prime. A faint hum echoed through the space, almost imperceptible but enough to make her pause. "Still alive, huh?" she muttered, a grin spreading across her face. "Let's see what you've got." She began her assessment, crawling through the ship's narrow corridors and peering into every compartment. Most of the systems were fried, but the engine was something else entirely. Mia's breath caught as she opened the engine bay to reveal the core, a quantum hyperdrive, or what appeared to be one. She had only read about such technology in textbooks, dismissed as impractical relics of alien civilizations. Yet here it was, nestled in this forgotten vessel, waiting to be rediscovered. "This shouldn't exist," Mia said, her voice barely above a whisper. Her mind raced. If she could repair this ship, it wouldn't just be another restoration project. It would be a revolution. The Saurian Hawk could change everything, from interstellar travel to the balance of power in the galaxy. But first, she had to figure out how to make it work. Over the next few days, Mia began the painstaking process of cataloging the ship's components and gathering the tools and materials she would need. She pored over the alien markings, deciphering bits and pieces with the help of a translation module she had built from scavenged parts. The ship was a Tarwi model, renowned for her craftsmanship, and a hyperdrive was the crown jewel of its design. Her excitement was tempered by the daunting task ahead. Many of the parts were irreplaceable, and the technology was far beyond anything she had worked on before. Still, Mia thrived on challenges. She began to sketch out a plan, her work table in the junkyard cluttered with blueprints, alien fragments, and half-assembled gadgets. The junkyard's regulars, a motley crew of scavengers and tinkerers, noticed her obsession. Some offered curious glances, while others scoffed at her efforts. "You're wasting your time," said an older mechanic named Hal, leaning against a rusting rover. "That thing's a piece of junk. Even if you fix it, it'll never fly." Mia smirked, not bothering to look up from her work. "That's what you said about the drone I fixed last month." Hal grumbled something under his breath and wandered off. Mia didn't care about the doubters. She felt a connection to the Saurian Hawk, almost as if it were responding to her efforts. The faint hum in the hyperdrive core seemed to pulse in rhythm with her movements, and the lights in the cockpit flickered softly when she spoke to it. She dismissed it as her imagination until one night, when the ship's systems activated on their own. Mia had been asleep in her small bunk near the workshop when the Saurian Hawk powered up. The hum of the hyperdrive startled her awake, and she rushed outside to find the ship glowing faintly under the Martian moons. The cockpit displays were alive, alien symbols dancing across the screens. "What the—" Mia climbed into the cockpit, her heart racing. As she touched the controls, the ship's systems calmed, the glyphs shifting to a stable configuration. For a moment, she felt a strange warmth, as if the ship was grateful or alive. "You've been waiting for someone, haven't you?" she whispered, her fingers brushing the console. "Well, I'm here now. Let's do this together." From that moment on, the Saurian Hawk seemed to respond to her efforts with greater precision. Systems came online more smoothly, and the hyperdrive's energy output stabilized beyond what she thought possible. It was as if the ship had been waiting for someone to understand it, to care for it, and now it had found its partner. With the ship nearly operational, Mia turned her attention to its aesthetic. She polished the repaired hull until it gleamed faintly under the dim Martian light. She painted her own emblem, a soaring hawk, on the side of the ship, a tribute to its name. The interior, though still rough in places, was clean and functional, with human-compatible modifications that blended seamlessly with the Tarwi design. Finally, after weeks of grueling work, the Saurian Hawk was ready for its first flight. Mia stood before the ship, her heart swelling with pride. The junkyard regulars, once skeptical, now gathered around in awe, whispering about the miracle she had achieved. "All right, old girl," Mia said, her voice steady. "Let's see if you can still fly." The Saurian Hawk's engines roared to life, and for the first time in decades, the ship lifted off the ground. Dust and debris scattered as it rose, its sleek form cutting through the Martian sky, like a phoenix reborn. Mia gripped the controls, her grin widening as the ship responded effortlessly to her touch. The Saurian Hawk was no longer a relic. It was a legend in the making, and Mia knew this was only the beginning of their journey. The Martian landscape stretched below as the Saurian Hawk ascended, its engines roaring with newfound vigor. Mia sat in the pilot's seat, her hands steady on controls, her heart pounding in sync with the rhythmic hum of the hyperdrive. She had spent weeks pouring her soul into the ship, and now it was alive, truly alive. The Junkyard, the only home she had ever known, shrank into a rusty speck below. A mix of excitement and trepidation filled her as the Saurian Hawk soared into the thin Martian atmosphere. Mia's fingers danced over controls, testing the ship's response. The modified interface she had installed worked seamlessly, translating the Tarwi systems into something intuitive for her. The ship moved like a predator, fast, agile, and powerful. "Let's see what you can do," she whispered, her voice tinged with exhilaration. She pushed the throttle forward, and the Saurian Hawk streaked into the blackness of space, leaving Mars behind. The first destination was a small asteroid belt orbiting one of Mars's moons. Mia needed to test the ship's maneuverability before attempting anything more ambitious. The Saurian Hawk weaved effortlessly through the dense field of tumbling rocks, its thrusters responding to her commands with precision. Each turn, each burst of speed felt like a symphony of machine and pilot working as one. But the real test loomed ahead. Mia activated the hyperdrive controls, her eyes flicking between the alien glyphs and her translated interface. She had calibrated the quantum lattice drive to fold space across a short distance, a jump to one of the outermost moons of Jupiter. If it worked, it would be the ship's first interstellar leap in decades. "All right, girl," Mia said, her voice steady. "Time to show me what you're made of." She engaged the hyperdrive. For a split second, the universe seemed to hold its breath. The stars outside the cockpit warped and twisted, bending into streaks of light as space itself folded. Then, with a deafening crack, the Saurian Hawk reemerged in a distant sector of space, the surface of Ganymede looming ahead. Mia let out a whoop of triumph. The ship had done it. The quantum hyperdrive, her patchwork repairs, and weeks of grueling work had paid off. She was no longer just a mechanic. She was a pilot, an explorer. As Mia basked in her success, a faint rhythmic beeping echoed through the cockpit. She frowned, glancing at the ship's communications panel. It was a distress signal, alien in origin, broadcasting on a frequency she didn't recognize. The glyphs translated to a single word: help. Her curiosity piqued. Mia traced the signal to a derelict station orbiting a nearby asteroid. Against her better judgment, she decided to investigate. The Saurian Hawk glided smoothly toward the station, its sensors scanning the structure. It was ancient and crumbling, with tarry markings faintly visible on its hull. Inside the station, Mia found a small group of tarry survivors, their silver-blue skin dull with exhaustion. They had been stranded for years, their own ship crippled by an asteroid collision. When they saw Mia approaching in the Saurian Hawk, their eyes widened in recognition. "This ship," one of them said in halting common, "is a legend. How is it here? How did you—" Mia explained how she had found the ship in the junkyard and restored it. The Tarwi listened in awe, their gratitude evident. They marveled at her ingenuity, calling her an engineer of destiny, a term that carried great reverence in their culture. As Mia helped the Tarwi repair their station's life support systems, one of them, a tall, stoic figure named Varric, approached her. "This ship belonged to a great smuggler," Varric said. "His name was Grill. He was my kin." Mia froze. The name Grill was etched into the ship's log, a faint trace of the ship's past she hadn't fully understood. She told Varric about the junkyard and how the ship had been abandoned there. "Grill discarded the Saurian Hawk because it was deemed obsolete," she said. "But it's anything but. This ship still has life in it." Varric nodded solemnly. It was never the ship that was obsolete. It was the pilot who lost faith. The Tarwi insisted that Mia keep the Saurian Hawk, seeing her as its rightful pilot. They gifted her a Tarwi navigation crystal, a rare artifact that would allow the ship to access ancient star maps and explore parts of the galaxy long forgotten. With the Tarwi safe and their station stabilized, Mia returned to the Saurian Hawk. She sat in the cockpit, holding the navigation crystal in her hands. Its soft glow pulsed, filling the cockpit with an ethereal light. For the first time, she felt a sense of purpose beyond survival, beyond the confines of the junkyard. The galaxy was vast and full of secrets. The Saurian Hawk was no longer just a ship. It was a beacon, a vessel of exploration and possibility. And Mia, the mechanic who refused to give up on a derelict, was now its captain. She input the coordinates from the navigation crystal into the ship systems. The star map illuminated, revealing uncharted regions of space, places where no human or Tari had ventured. Her hands hovered over the controls as she gazed out at the infinite expanse. "All right, old girl," Mia said with a grin. "Let's see what's out there." The Saurian Hawk roared to life, its engines burning brighter than ever. With a flash of light, it vanished into the depths of space, carrying Mia toward a future she could scarcely imagine. The junkyard was behind her, and the stars were calling.